way of life. That's what Masonry is all about. And we teach it. Every degree is a lesson.
Masonry really gives us, through ritual and through its teachings, the way to find the meaning of life.
Before Walter Bruning's passing, he had achieved the title of oldest living man in the world. Walter was a Scottish Rite Freemason and had joined the fraternity in 1925. During his life, 22 U.S. presidents held office. Walter witnessed the homesteading of Montana, 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and man's first walk on the moon. As Associate Director of Membership Services, I had the opportunity to speak with Walter about his experiences as a Freemason. I also spoke with Justin Davis, a young Scottish Rite Mason who was just beginning his Masonic journey. As a Mason, Justin is continuing a great tradition started by his grandfather. These are their stories.
But I became active from the time I got in there. As soon as I got the 3 degrees, well, they start putting me in the chairs, and the second year I got appointed to go through the chairs. So in 34, I became master of it. But at that years, all the officers had to learn everything. Everything there was, you know. Well, years ago, you know, Masonry damn near become extinct. You remember in the country? Almost extinct. And then it came back.
We're coming around to a time where the lessons and the teachings of Freemasonry are becoming more relevant. We see an increased disenfranchisement with society of many of our youth. And so they're not connecting with a lot of other organizations. And I think they're looking for something that creates meaning in life and creates a goal to work towards.
If you're not active, you're not going to get a thing out of it, I'll tell you that. I don't think we were born here just for ourselves. We're here to help other people. And I think all of us thought that. All of us will think so. Helping other people is the greatest thing that there is.
I think it was Newton that said it, Freemasonry is the fatherhood of
And I think it's a very relevant organization. I think one of the things you hear a lot about today, and today's youth specifically, is that there are so many distractions in life. You have a cell phone, a BlackBerry, an iPhone, a computer, an iPod, and you can be so disjuncted from the world. And I think everyone sometimes tends to forget that the world goes around because people make the world go around. And I think Masonry is one of those beautiful things that for that time, for that hour and a half, that 2 hours on that Wednesday night or that Saturday night, that everyone is in that lodge room and everyone's kind of working toward a better purpose, and that's a humankind purpose. And I think all of the rings and the buzzes of a cell phone and all that kind of stuff kind of goes away.
I think that with the steady decline of just morals in general in society, I think that organizations that kind of try to teach brotherly love and I get away from the me type of mentality. I think that those are positive organizations, and I've always tried to seek ways to serve my community.
I don't think there's enough emphasis on people having values, on wanting to do their best, on wanting to do the right thing, on wanting to treat others right. And Masonry builds on that, not from the aspect of trying to get other people to do it, but trying to get each of us to do the best that we can with ourselves, and not to be as judgmental on other people. It's a way to make good men better.
My father's a Mason. I just didn't get in right away. In fact, I'm the last one in my family to have gotten the message, and I did it on my own, and so did my brother. So my father really had no influence on us, although We have 5 or 6 generations of our family on both my father's side and my mother's side going back to some Grand Masters.
And of course, as far as the United States, it plays a major role because most of the founding fathers were Masons, and you can see the lessons entwined in the different documents that they wrote and the letters that they wrote back and forth to each other and the decisions that they made that framed our country.
More and more young people in the Blue Lodges are coming in. A lot of young people that I see, former military, business people, are finding in us what we have said all along that we are, which is the opportunity to take good men and make them better.
My first sergeant in my first unit was a Freemason, and I noticed that he had a lot of community service activities going on. I just really wanted to be a part of that. I was in Baghdad when I had this conversation with him, and he was just...
Members know the pride, joy, and personal enrichment that the Scottish Rite fraternity brings. But what does the Scottish Rite mean to our families and friends? Wives, daughters, granddaughters, and friends of Freemasons offer new insights into how today's women value men's participation in Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Knowing a Freemason.
My relationship with Freemasonry, and particularly Scottish Rite, is of course through my husband, who is a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason.
My boyfriend was a Freemason, and then he just recently became involved with the Scottish Rite.
When I got married, I told my husband that this was going to be a stipulation of our marriage, that he had to become a Mason.
I remember my father becoming a Mason and then a Scottish Rite Mason.
What I do is raise funds for our charities, and I handle legal affairs for the Supreme Council.
My father was a Mason. He was a Mason at the age of 18, and he was very active in Scottish Rite.
I'm the wife of a 33rd degree Mason.
The other day, somebody was helping me load my car, and he noticed our license plate, and he said, so are you a Mason? I said, no, my husband is a Mason.
Supporting the journey.
Well, in his Scottish Rite activities, he's broadened his circle of friends. He thoroughly enjoys the study and the preparation and the performance of the ritual degrees.
He wants to better himself. He wants to learn how to be a better man. He's learned that through his degrees.
They do a theatrical representation of a moral story, a historical story, that brings together or puts you in those shoes, allows you to experience that moral dilemma.
Well, I certainly think it's helped my husband look at society and where he is at differently. I think he's really trying to become a better person every day.
And I'm so proud of his accomplishments. He has just the charity, the loving kindness, the helpfulness. He seems to go out of his way on more than one occasion to mentor. They can be a leader among their peers. They can be mentors. And it is a ongoing process between Masons of the past, Masons of the present, and Masons of the future.
Respecting the craft.
Well, I know a lot of men who joined Masonry and Scottish Rite Masonry because of their fathers or grandfathers. Actually, more their grandfathers. It's kind of funny. It almost skipped a generation.
And they could go to other countries and meet someone who's had the similar experience of joining a lodge, of becoming a Scottish Rite Freemason.
And wherever we go, you have an instant family.
I was able to see very deeply within the experience that is life.
You've got people who are, their early 20s, all the way through, their 90s actually. The experience that they share with each other, that never gets old.
Scottish Rite is right for the man who is looking to go more deeply into the meaning of life.
It's true. It's very eye-opening. It takes you to a new level as a person, and that's the important thing. You get out of this what you want to get out of it.
And I feel like the people that are involved in this are not just preaching to do the right thing. They are doing the right thing. And to me, that's the true sign of an honest organization, is that they deliver. They're not just talking the talk, they walk the walk. And that's the kind of organization I want to be a part of.
It's something that you don't talk about a lot. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, your grandpa was a member. And you're like, really?
The one thing that the fraternity in general has taught me is to be more compassionate to other people, no matter their walk of life, to try to walk a mile in their shoes and understand them and be charitable to them, not just monetarily, but in time and in many other ways.
I also know that it has done me better because some of the things I've learned here about justice and equality and all of those things have helped me to deal better with my fellow man.
The Scottish Rite is relevant in today's society because it imparts the principles of brotherhood, of looking for the best in people, whether Masons or not, of believing in something that is greater than all of us.
It's tough to explain the different people that I have met through this organization because they're all so unique, and I mean, they're from every walk of life, but they are truly your brother, and they want the best for you.
A way of life, that's what Masonry is all about, and we teach it. Every degree is a lesson.
We are this imperfect person, imperfect man, and there's always some way to improve ourselves. But you got to have the right tools for that, and I think Scottish Rite provides those tools and shows you the way to progress as a person and as a man.
More and more young people in the Blue Lodges are coming in. A lot of young people that I see, former military, business people, are finding in us what we have said all along that we are, which is the opportunity.
There comes a time in a man's life when he decides who he wants to be and how Freemasonry and the Scottish Rite fit into his life. I'm Stan Dodd with the Southern Jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite. We believe the Brotherhood of Freemasonry offers many levels of knowledge to help with life's tough decisions, along with a vast social network of friendship and support. Dr. Richard Draper has had a great life, and as you will hear, it was the guidance of Freemasonry, and particularly Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, that helped him make some of his life's greatest decisions. As the story begins, Dr. Draper tells of his discussions with Clarence, a Freemason. Their friendship launched the young Richard Draper on his Masonic journey.
I was consumed with this desire to want to do something with my life, but I wasn't working smart. I was expending a lot of energy. I wasn't really getting where I wanted to go. I thought how I needed to. A lot of starts and stops, but I was getting there positively, but I thought there's got to be a better way. And in talking with him, he was able to, we became very good friends, and I had noticed that he had a Blue Lodge ring on, and I knew my dad and my grandfather had been Masons, and but my dad had never talked about it, of course, which you don't. You know, he had just lived his life according to Masonic principles, and started to intrigue me. I became a Blue Lodge Mason at Lodge 38 in Norman, Oklahoma. I was a senior in college then at University of Oklahoma. I began my work there in Norman and was raised. In fact, my dad raised me. And we subsequently raised my brother. I was in graduate school, was completing a master's degree in Kansas City at UMKC, and had gotten into medical school. One of the questions that they ask you in the interview process is whether or not you can afford it. And if you can't afford it, they'll find somebody else that can. I was within 2 weeks of starting classes, and the medical school was very clear about their message. They said that if you don't pay your tuition, you don't start. So I was kind of in a quandary. I didn't really know what to do. My dad was hundreds of miles away. I didn't really know many people in Kansas City because I worked and was going to school, and I had a young family, a child, and was driving around town, and something compelled me to stop at the Scottish Rite Temple at Linwood in the Paseo. I'd always been aware of the building because it's quite beautiful, and I'd always been a little curious about it, being a Freemason and all. And I didn't know who to talk to.